I'm about ready to read another book, and this is by this person here that's called Professormaxtrinity. Now, she has a lot of good things on her channel. You might want to check her out. Has a lot to say about the metaphysics for suicide prevention, and she has written this book called Life Designs, which she sent to me, wishing for me to read it on my channel, which after I read it last night, I'm really glad to read it on my channel because it is really very good, well thought out. I really admire the way she tells things. I never can get my words quite like this, but I'm going to try to read hers and hopefully put the emphasis where it should go on this Life Designs, because this is really an important book, I think. So I'll start off by reading you the introduction. The purpose of life design is to demonstrate and facilitate a view of life that accelerates personal transformation. We are all involved in our own personal transformation, in that we all go through cycles of change. By understanding these cycles and our own personal style of navigating them, we gain insights and the comprehension necessary to create our journey in any way that we desire. The clarity that comes through understanding sets us squarely in the driver's seat, and we can accelerate or decelerate at will. How does Life Designs bring about this understanding and clarity? By structuring a particular point of view that enhances the overall picture of how the body and psyche interact. At the same time, particular points concerning the ego structure and the creator role are brought to bear so blatantly that we get a detailed view of how to construct and deconstruct mental pathways and, in direct correlation, physical pathways. It truly is like stepping through a door and encountering a part of yourself that has direct answers to all your most difficult and compelling questions. This other you can hand you complete detailed steps for changing whatever it is that you want to change. This is not just a course on how to set boundaries. It is an outline for creating boundaries. This is the art of living, to create a life print, a personal, living self-portrait of your own through your capacity to imagine. The art of creating your own life story. And now the preface. There are 4 attributes needed to even begin this path to another view. These are the attributes of the mature human creature. To be a mature human has little to do with age. To be mature is to take a particular and deliberate approach to life that incorporates the attributes of honesty, accountability, consideration, and appreciation. To follow the path of life design is to practice and master these 4 attributes. Honesty. Honesty is not about telling truths. Truth, by definition, is self-evident and so speaks for itself. A person can tell a truth and not honestly understand it at the same time. In the context of life design, honesty means being openly yourself. Being open as in open to new and different views, open to learning and exploring without hiding behind prejudiced reputation or defensiveness. And being yourself means just being who you are at the time and communicating as clearly as possible the way you are perceiving and approaching life in the present. It's about walking your talk, saying what you mean and meaning what you say. Honesty is about being open, receptive, and observant, and these are skills we can practice. To begin to practice being open is to come to recognize when we are being defensive. Defensiveness is our experiential signal that tells us when we are not being open. To let go defenses is to open up. When we are open, we are signaled by a relaxed feeling of ease. So we practice being open by noticing when we're feeling defensive or acting defensive, and using this as a signal to redirect our feelings and thoughts. Defensiveness is an overreaction that cuts us off from our natural and open state of being. When we recognize it, we can practice quickly changing our feelings and thoughts to those of ease. Take it easy on yourself and others. There's nothing to defend. To be receptive is to intentionally receive in an attitude of unconditional acceptance and genuine interest. Listening is the best way to practice receptivity. To actively practice listening is to listen with real interest without feeling a need to express the commentary arising in your own mind and without it interrupting. If we are drifting away and missing whole chunks of what the other is saying, we are not listening with interest. If we are clinging to our own associations and just waiting for our turn to talk, we are more focused on a desire to express than a desire to receive and learn. When we interrupt, we are not listening with affection and an open heart. To take opportunities to listen to others every day is a way to practice the skill of receptivity. To practice observation is to observe with your attention attuned to garnering information about whatever you are observing. We can practice this by self-applying what we are observing in another and seeing the principle of self-reflection at work. By using this principle, we are observing on multiple levels because we are using multiple sources of data, ourselves and the others we are observing. This multiversing of observance expands our understanding of what we are observing and of observation itself. This expands our experience and our capacity to openly observe. These three practices reciprocate each other in a positive feedback loop. When you're actively practicing receptivity and observance, we are automatically being more open. When we are more open, we're more receptive and observant. And so it goes. This is the cycle of honesty, and you can kickstart it from any one of these practices. Practicing these skills daily is how we master honesty, and honesty is the essential freedom to just be yourself. Accountability. Accountability is simply owning your own life. It is the artful skill of seeing your own hand in the creation of every mode and circumstance you find yourself in. This capacity increases every time we fully acknowledge the outcomes and effects of our choices. We can practice accountability by openly observing our own expressions and perspectives to see what mood and impressions come with those expressions. These are the things we are accountable for: our expressions, perspectives, and moods. We choose these qualities of attitude and create our daily life in the choosing. Practicing intentional moods and expressions of peace, poise, dignity, contentment, joy, appreciation, and humor is a way to master accountability. When we see clearly how we are creating our reality, that insight frees us to create deliberately. Accountability is the essential freedom to create your life in any way you choose. Consideration. Consideration is to take in as much of the picture as you can in the process of decision making. It means seeing an issue or circumstance from as many varied views and with as much information as possible. This raises the level of consciousness in decision making because it requires you to be more sensitive, more attentive, and more aware. To be truly considerate is to expand our ideas and perceptions to include others, and a larger sense of self in that we openly acknowledging that we are all connected and influencing each other's views. To be considerate does not mean to be nice. That is a naive notion of consideration. It can actually get pretty rough if you're interacting with someone who is resistant to honesty and accountability. Some people may not feel like you're being nice when you're being honest or demonstrating accountability. To be considerate is to always be honest and to know what you are accountable for and what you are not accountable for. In true consideration, we acknowledge that we are accountable for the flavor of influence we create. We are not accountable for any action or reaction of another, ever. We can never choose for another person. We can only choose for ourselves. We practice consideration when we acknowledge the free choice of others, our own free choice, and then freely choose to co-create. This requires honesty and accountability, as well as considering the point of view of the others involved and aiming for the win-win scenario. Practicing the art of conversation sharpens the skill of consideration by giving us opportunities to listen and relate. To relate is to flow in easy harmony with another, dancing through a spontaneous maze of associations and mutual understandings. Relating is yummy stuff and naturally occurs when we take a big picture view of what another is expressing. Seeing each other in the big picture and listening to each other instantly expands our view for consideration. Practicing, listening, and relating is how we master consideration. And consideration is the essential freedom to co-create in peace. Appreciation. Appreciation is the highest form of love that we can express to one another as human people. Appreciation incorporates the blend of honesty, accountability, and consideration with the added magical ingredients of understanding and inspiration. To practice appreciation, we must practice the first three attributes, and most especially the skill of relating. What we can relate to, we can understand, and in order to appreciate something, we must first understand it. We can master appreciation by practicing the art of finding inspiration and allowing ourselves to be inspired and inspiring. For we truly appreciate that which inspires us, and we have another kind of appreciation for all that we inspire. The message of life design is to appreciate life itself by truly understanding your own experiences and creations in life, your own life story. The coolest thing about appreciation is that when you're in the attitude of appreciation, you are getting to experience the feelings of appreciation. In appreciation, we feel no fear and no pressure. In the state of appreciation, we are totally and completely free to just be and to rest in a state of sublime peace and intense joy, with the ease and the grace of a contented heart and the most profound and humbling sense of satisfaction and gratitude. Appreciation is available to us at any time we choose, and it is our freest expression. It is us totally free. How skilled you become in these four attributes is directly related to how deliberately you can live your life and how long it takes to make changes in your views and lifestyle. Using these attributes as a general approach to life raises you to a standard of living that is gracious, fulfilling, and free. It is required that you practice your skills in all four attributes daily and intentionally. Be intentionally honest and easily accountable for yourself. Be deliberately considerate. Take time to consider and to be as conscious as possible. And as often as you can, intentionally turn your attention to the freeing influence of the view through appreciation. Patterns first. Everything is a pattern. There is nothing that exists that is not a pattern. There are patterns of repetition like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. There are patterns of forms like a circle or a spiral. There are also patterns of feeling, behavior, perspective, vibration, mood, action, and energy. Have you ever stopped to contemplate the fact that we humans are born with the innate capacity to recognize, detect, interpret, construct, and deconstruct patterns? No matter what age, culture, or circumstance, we, in the human we, are all pattern analysts. We discern patterns, interrupt patterns, modify and create with patterns. We are pattern manipulators. We ourselves are patterns of free conscious choice who use patterns to create our lives. That's why we recognize the elements of patterning such as form, repetition, and sequencing. We are self-analyzing patterns of living awareness using patterns to create existence. It is a fundamental for us to understand how patterning works. This is a big picture view of life to see that it's all patterns. This is one of the most important characteristics of our nature and the nature of life, and it cannot be stressed enough. In all of life is patterns. Then if all of life is patterns, then knowing how patterning works tells you a lot about how life works as well. That's why patterns first. Repetition. Repetition is one of the powers that drives life as we know it. If the earth stopped repeating its daily revolutions, all of human life would die. If the earth stopped repeating its circle around the sun, the earth would die, and if your heart stops repeating beats, your body will die. Repetition is power. It's just the same way that repetition is a basic element of physical life. It is also a basic element of our psychological life. For instance, when we experience rejection from someone whom we are seeking acceptance from, we will sometimes take the initial pain of that rejection and multiply it by repeating messages of insecurity to ourselves. In our minds, we will repeat messages like, I'm not enough, I'm not smart enough, not pretty enough, not talented enough, I probably don't even smell right. Along with the insecure thoughts of insufficiency come thoughts of being inherently faulty. Something must be wrong with me. When these messages repeat relentlessly, they give life to our experience of insecurity. Once we've repeated the thoughts of insecurity enough, we develop an auto-reaction of insecurity. Our insecurity program is up and running. It's alive and will show itself at the slightest hint of perceived rejection. The auto-reaction is born in repetition. Insecurity is a choice. The forms of insecurity are thought forms, chemical forms, perceptual forms, behavioral and vibrational forms. The forms of the expression are the identifiable actions of the expression. Each form is presenting its own unique action at the same time. Thought forms generate meanings. Perceptual forms generate a direct reflection of perspective. How are we receiving something? How are we seeing it as directly relating to how we are looking at it? Read that again. How we are receiving something, how we are seeing it, is directly related to how we are looking at it. The perspective we take is the view we're taking through chemical forms. I'm tongue twisted. The perspective we take is the view we're looking through chemical forms, generate specific chemical reactions, physical sensations, and physical psychological manifestations relating to the expression. Behavioral forms are the observable actions, relationships, and attitudes generated by the expression. Vibrational forms are the observable moods and quality of being generated by the expression. It's the repeating of these forms over and over in different circumstances over time that gives them such a firm hold on our personal mind space. Using insecurity as an example, you can see how these forms interact and interconnect to form a whole expression, and you can get a clear view of the experience created through expressing with insecurity. The thoughts of "I'm not enough" and "there must be something wrong with me" express the meaning of insecurity. This meaning describes a particular perspective of ourselves as not capable, and we perceive ourselves as being of low esteem and low worth. Through this perception, we reveal that we're looking at things with this perspective that we're not good enough. We experience a mood of insecurity in which we feel low energy, low confidence, low interest in general, and a low level of hope. We also experience a heightened sense of anxiousness and feelings of embarrassed self-consciousness. Our bodies flood with these shitty chemicals of this mood, and we experience shitty feelings from these shitty chems. Our bodies exhibit slouchy, lethargic, and protective postures. We may also exhibit symptoms like sweating and shaking and general awkwardness. We demonstrate other behaviors in our relationships. Insecurity seeks control under the delusion that control brings security. When folks overindulge the expression of insecurity, it can lead to overindulging in the delusion of control, which can lead to murder. People experiencing insecurity often demonstrate it through the use of deceit, controlling styles, power tripping, and trying to be better on something or more right than others. If overindulged, insecurity plays out its expressions in extreme control scenarios that can lead to the ultimate control fantasy, the control over another life. Many serial killers describe feelings of power and control when taking the lives of their victims. This is the far and violent extreme of overindulging in insecurity. This is how using the expression of insecurity can lead to murder. This raises the question, can we eliminate our use of this profoundly unattractive and unpeaceful expression? Is it possible to eliminate insecurity from your personal life entirely, totally and completely? The answers are consecutively yes and yes. Through our natural capacity and capability to deconstruct patterns, we can rid ourselves of our experience of insecurity. In life designs, we learn to manage our own programming and consciously choose what programming we want to keep and what we want to discard. We learn directly from the pattern how to deconstruct or auto-use it, or our auto-use of it. By examining the patterns of insecurity, we get direct information on how to eliminate it as a personal expression. By understanding how patterns work, we learn how to deconstruct any unwanted expression. How to deconstruct, we can see from our examination of insecurity that the forms of the expressions are all interacting simultaneously. This essentially gives us 5 pathways to choose from in deconstructing our use of insecurity or of any other pattern of expression. We can use mood to deconstruct the vibrational patterns. We can deconstruct the mood we're in, construct a new mood, and change the vibration of our expression experience. We can observe our behaviors that demonstrate insecurity and begin to deconstruct our outward manifestations of it. We can alter ourselves temporarily with chemicals and find a break from the mindset and correlating thoughts of insecurity. We can even use this pathway to begin deconstruction. But if altering chemicals is the only pathway we're using to deconstruct the expression, we will not succeed. It is more likely that we will become dependent on the chemicals and lapse into escape patterns instead of deconstruction. There's a very efficient way to utilize chemical change that runs no risk of side effects or chemical addiction. We'll discuss this fully in a moment. We can begin deconstruction of our own use of insecurity by letting go of insecurity perceptions. The perception is coloring our whole view of life. When we change our perceptions, we change our meanings in life and simultaneously change our views. When we change our meanings, we change our thoughts. New meanings bring us new thoughts and new correlating chems. This is our most efficient tool for deconstruction, for deconstructing chemical forms of insecurity. We can use our thoughts as chemical gauges for our physical body. If we are having insecure thoughts, that's a direct indicator that the chems of insecurity are coursing through the body. Our mood is also a gauge. If our mood is dominated by anxiety, fear, and a sense of rejection, then that indicates insecurity chemicals. One of the reasons we've failed in the past to eradicate our use of insecurity is because we're not using our gauges correctly, and we're not deconstructing all the forms of expression we're using. The following are steps on how to deconstruct whatever expression you choose. We'll continue to use insecurity as an example because we've identified the different forms of that expression. It's the same as with any other expression. We must first identify each of the 5 forms of the expression and the ways in which we are using them. If we were to use discouragement as an example, then we would want to identify the thoughts that express discouragement, the perception of or meaning of discouragement, the physical sensations of discouragement, the behaviors, physical and relational, that express it, and what the mood of discouragement feels like. The first step in identifying the pattern of expression is identifying these 5 forms of the expression. Step 2. Begin to use your thoughts and moods as gauges of what you're auto-expressing. Auto-expression acts instantly before we have a chance to think because it is unconscious activity. So if we begin to monitor our thoughts and moods to identify what we're expressing, we can get a jump on the reactions. All we have to do is monitor our moods and thoughts. When a mood of anxiety and fear mixed with a sense of rejection comes over us, we notice it. We don't have to try to notice it. It's pretty obvious. When our thoughts are a deluge of not enoughs, or we are seeking to always be right so as to not notice how wrong we feel, well, it's easy to see what these thoughts are expressing. Generally, what we do is we take these thoughts and feelings as our own and identify our whole self through these thoughts and moods. We perpetuate the mood by repeating the thoughts and the perceptions of insecurity over and over and over. This is a misuse of our natural gauges and makes no sense. If the gas gauge on our car reads near empty, we don't rev the engine burning more gas faster. We stop and fill the tank because we understand what the gauge is telling us. Well, our mood and thought gauges are the same. If we understand what they're telling us, then we know what action to take when those gauges start blinking. Reading gauges in life design, we take a particular approach to the gauges of mood and thought. We look at the gauges as stress meters in the life design view, and these meters become crucial and highly efficient tools for changing our conscious boundaries. Our thoughts and moods transmit to us instantaneously. our state of mind by relaying information through stressed and relaxed qualities of sensation of the body and attention. Fear sensations such as anxiousness and paralysis send a high stress message throughout the body. The central nervous system is flooded, and we experience the physical sensations of fear as pockets of stress throughout our body. Our quality of attention is also affected, and we experience a state of obsessing and compulsion in our personal mind space, where thoughts of fearful meanings and fearful perceptions are relentlessly repeating. Other times we experience a paralysis of mind and body, and it's as if our brain is stuck in a state of confusion and victim perceptions. These victim perceptions show themselves in repeating thoughts of how hard and scary life is and how no one understands us. We see ourselves as selected out to be doomed, and we repeat this doom message. These messages come with the same stress pockets in the body. This is how we take stress into the body and personal mind space, by overreacting mentally and sending the overreaction messages throughout the body. This causes us to overcontract our muscles, creating tension patterns throughout the body, from head to toe. If you really start to focus your attention, you'll discover that there are primary tension patterns and lesser tension patterns that occur in the body. It won't take much practice for you to identify the primary stress areas. The shoulders, upper back is one major stress storage area. The lower back and solar plexus areas are the other major storage zones for compounded stress and tension. These are considered primary because they are the most noticeable areas we encounter when we scan our body to check for stress levels. The lesser tension patterns reveal themselves after we intentionally relax the areas of high stress. With a little experimentation, you'll find that if you relax your shoulders down away from your ears, that your neck, jaw, and upper part of your solar plexus will relax. If you totally relax your ass, you'll notice that your upper legs, feet, lower back, and lower solar plexus will relax as well. If you really pay attention, you'll be surprised at how often and how strenuously you contract your shoulders up and tighten your butt muscles. When you tense your shoulders, the stress spreads to the neck, the head, the jaw, and in extreme anxiety all the way to the hands where the fists are clenched. If you squinch up your butt, you'll notice that the muscles in your lower back, lower gut, and thighs will tense up. In extreme cases of an overstressed body, the toes will even curl in tension. If you relax your ass and shoulders, then you can take your relaxation deeper by noticing if there is subtle tension in your forehead, neck, face, or any other place that might be obscured by the primary tension. The next step is to relax the mind too. If we repeatedly express or experience fear, we are compounding stress in our mind, and after prolonged use, this manifests as disease in the body. This is how stress kills. The other elements of importance is to fully realize that we humans have all been repeating fear expressions quite long enough to make it an auto reaction that manifests as a metaprogram in the human we. Fear is being actively expressed by nearly every member of the human we. The whole human race is stress sick due to this fact. The whole human we is dying from the corresponding compounding of stress due to global human auto reactions of fear and all the meanings that come with them. We are drowning in our own fear expressions, both personally and collectively, and the tension is putting us further and further under. What becomes equally clear through reciprocity is that relaxation of the body and mind decompresses stress, decreases the amount of stress processed, and prevents the stress from storing up in the body and muddying up the attention. Relaxation is a life-giving, life-enhancing sensation and a signal that all is well. We know from experience that we cannot simultaneously relax and express fear. When we are relaxed, we are expressing openness and experiencing sensations of physical comfort and lightness, along with freedom and peace. To be at peace is a relaxed state. There's no stress in peace perceptions. To feel free is to feel totally relaxed and at home in your own mind and body, in your own story.